Hi there, Dr. Joan F. Land here. I am so glad we're going to be talking today about how processed food addiction persuades us to take a small bite of processed foods. So I think we've all had that experience where we really don't want to eat something. Like we finally decided we're putting our foot down and we're going to stop eating these foods that we know are bad for us. And yet we get into a social situation, or there's something at home, or we see somebody else eating something that's very, very tempting, and we decide to take one bite. And the voice says, one bite will not hurt you. And nobody will see you take one bite. And everybody else is having it, so you must be able to have it. And you don't have to eat the whole thing. You could just have one. Or maybe you're at a buffet and you have your food picked out, your nice, clean, safe, healthy food, but then something catches your eye and somehow it makes its way onto your plate. So we're talking about the big mistakes in recovery from processed food addiction. And thinking that one bite will not hurt you is on our list of the biggest mistakes. So one of the things we do in these short informational, educational videos is we bring up to the surface with clarity these moments where we're going to make a mistake. And if you know it and you have the words for it and you have a frame around it, you will not make that mistake. Your brain will say, no, 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 I know where we are and I know what we're not going to do. So now that you've seen this video and now that we're talking about it, you will know that when you hear that voice in your head, one bite is not going to hurt you. Then you know that that's the voice of the addiction. So here's how it works. Maybe you take that bite and nothing happens. That's not typically what happens. Typically, that voice now is being fed and it gets more powerful and it gets louder. And it says, oh, well, you could have one more. You took that one, you could have one more. What does this happen with? It can happen with, it particularly happens with sweets that come in bite-sized pieces. So I don't want to say the words for them because I know that will trigger you. But sweets that come in bite-sized pieces, it's very easy. Once you have taken one bite, here is what happens in the brain. The craving center explodes. And it says, oh, I've got control now. Now the craving center in the brain is able to reach right over to the motion center, the part of the brain that controls the motion of our hands. And it takes over the brain. So the craving center competes with this frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is where you're saying, no, I don't want any more. But when the craving center gets fed by that first bite, it is able to shut down, shut off, just stop any thinking in the frontal lobe. It wins the competition. So now the craving center has control of the brain, and the part of the brain that says, I don't want to eat that. My goodness, I'm trying to lose weight, or I have diabetes, or my doctor said not to eat that. I have heart disease. I don't want to eat that. That part of the brain has now been switched off. Whoosh, it's gone. That whole braking system, that control system, restraint, impulse control, that part of the brain is switched off. The craving center, if you feed that craving center, it is strong enough to switch off the frontal lobe. So now you've taken that bite, and now your emotion center, your behavior center, is under the control of the craving pathway. And so what happens, particularly if there are a series of bites that you could take, your hand just starts to reach out and take them. We've all had this experience. It's almost like we're watching ourselves from way over here. Here's this hand that is got a life of its own. And it's just putting things into our mouths one by one. And it might accelerate. From there, you might go get something larger. Or you might leave your house and go buy something that you can carry out. And then it just skyrockets. It's like a locomotive going down the side of a mountain. Like if you've ever been on a roller coaster, you know, creep, 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 creep up to the top, and then zoop down the rails. And that is what it's like when you've taken that one bite and you've activated that craving pathway, and now you're off to the races. That is one scenario, but there is another scenario where nothing happens. Nothing happens in that moment. Nothing happens in that hour. But the craving pathway stores up that energy. And it might be later that day. It might be when you get home and you're by yourself, or it might be the next day, or the next time you're around that particular food. Because now that voice has power. Now that voice says, see, we ate that last time and nothing happened. No, nothing happened. So you could have it again. It's safe for you. Now the addiction has got an argument. But it's because you're listening to this video, you know what to say to that voice. You know, it's just say, shove off. I am not listening to you. You are not controlling my behavior. You are a liar. You are a narcissist. You only think of yourself. And you would be happy to steal my life away, but I am not going to let you. Now, I have to tell you, if that doesn't work, if that voice just reaches over and starts controlling your behavior again, then, in my opinion, it would be a good idea to try out a more comprehensive program. There are other parts of the brain that you can recruit to work with your frontal lobe, and these are the mirror neurons. So talk to your health professional about getting into a group, the right group, a group of people who are already successful at controlling their food, a group of people who understand what that voice is saying, that you can have one bite voice. It never works. Whether it's a crunchy, salty food, or whether it's a sweet food, or whether it's a high-fat food, those are all addictive, or whether it's a dairy product, or whether it's a caffeinated product. That addiction is very, very powerful. It's very deeply embedded, and it will be fighting for the rest of your life to get you to take that first bite. But now you know. Now you know. So try some of that self-talk that we just described. If that doesn't work, just say, okay, it's all right. This is harder than I thought it was going to be. And I'm going to go find one of those groups. I'm going to go talk to my health professional and find one of those support groups. I'm so glad we got to visit. And I'm so glad you've got a frame around this. This is not some big amorphous monster that has to run your life. This is just a group of neurons in your brain that are particularly powerful and particularly clever and particularly persuasive. So just know that you're not alone. This is not your fault. You didn't ask to have that insistent, obnoxious voice in your head that was put there by the tobacco company when they took control of processed foods, and they know how to create addiction. Thanks very much for watching this with me and being with me. Of course, I'm here to help you. Dr. Joan Ifland. My email is foodaddictionreset@gmail.com. You can visit our website, www.foodaddictionreset.com, or you can come and join our Facebook group, Food Addiction Education. But check all those out with your health professional first. I hope I get to see you again. Dr. Joan Ifland, signing off.